What's up, party people? John Delarose here, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction, coming at you with a surprise epic collection review, because I haven't been talking about this one, of course, so I always say surprise when I'm deviating from my reading patterns. This is just the first epic I grabbed off the shelf as I was running the other day, and so I read it. These Star Wars ones, especially the later ones, tend to go pretty quick, so I kind of like them as faster reads than the 60s stuff, because the 60s stuff I like to really sit down and digest. There's a lot in each issue. And of course, as comics get more and more decompressed, we have a lot less of that going on. It starts out with an issue of Star Wars Empire, 14, then 7, then 16, 17, 18 as a three-part story. We get the miniseries Vader's Quest from 1999, and Star Wars from 2013 by Brian Wood, all the way till the end of that year. Now this series goes to 20 issues, so I believe that's going to be covered in the next volume. I don't know how they compile these. I'd be interested. I should talk to, who do I talk to about these? The editors, I guess Randy Strandley and Pete James with David Land. Maybe these are the people to talk to about how they map these out and compile these. But they seem to be sort of in chronological order of some sort. Most of the stories don't actually have a ton of chronological elements to them. You get a little bit, maybe here and there, but yeah, works out. I think I forgot to even talk about this. This is Star Wars The Rebellion, Volume 1, right here. Now, I don't understand why there's a distinction between Empire. There's an Empire line and a Rebellion line. I've not read the Empire line. This is the only book of the Rebellion line I've read, because it actually takes place in the book Star Wars Empire. So that's a bit of a strange thing. We get I guess this takes place right after Yavin 4. So when the Death Star was blown up the first time, spoilers, and then things happen. The first story, I really don't like this art style. I felt like it's a little stilted. The colors don't look all that great either. It's just not very action-oriented for me. But it's about stormtroopers who are on a planet, I guess they're Imperial folk, and Darth Vader crashes there, and they're kind of slacking off, being like, there's nothing going to happen here on this backwater world. What are you talking about? And then Vader leaves them to the wolves. So it was an interesting one-shot. We then get another story just kind of dealing with Boba Fett. A lot of these insert Boba Fett into the books periodically. And then we get into our three-part story where things start to build into a little better storytelling here. Again, I don't like this art or color style, especially for Star Wars. It just doesn't have a Star Wars feel to it. This is something like I'd want out of like a Tarzan book or something like that. And it just, I don't know, just doesn't give that like epic space battle feel. It kind of does the opposite. But this one deals with an Imperial officer who is fighting off these natives and is really doing right tactics and trying to get held down by other officers who get jealous of his successes and jealous of his work there. And so we're into this volume pretty big at this point. And again, I don't like the art so much, but the stories were actually pretty good. They were fast-paced and pretty fun. Very much one-off vignettes that didn't matter so much in the context of the Star Wars universe, but you want some popcorn, good stuff right there. It's just kind of fun. Then we get on to Vader's Quest miniseries, and this is a story. We get much back into like sort of regular comic style with this one, which I appreciate a little bit more. And Vader keeps hearing this name Skywalker associated with the person who destroyed the Death Star, and he's like, what? I'm Skywalker. What's going on with these hijinks? So, we also have a pilot who was supposed to have the X-Wing that Luke flew, which is a nice twist here. And he's upset because Luke flew and destroyed the Death Star, and he thought, hey, that could have been me. And Luke's getting all the glory. I'm a great pilot. And so he gets censured after causing a problem, goes off to this planet. Meanwhile, Luke goes to some planet to try to help the rebellion, and it ends up it's a trap. He gets captured, and Vader's on his way. And Luke breaks out of the trap, of course, And the sad pilot, who's kind of been a degenerate the entire book here, then comes through at the end and, you know, proves himself at last. And that's the end of that book. So pretty cute story. And you see the Emperor gets into he understands the Skywalker at the end and starts scheming, and that ends the book. So that's a nice little miniseries to take place in between, you know, episode 4 and The Empire Strikes Back right there. Then we get this series, which is Star Wars, just self-titled, and Brian Wood writes this. The art is much better in this series for this 2013 than the rest of the series so far. So I really love the art in this series. Very nice. The only one complaint I have, I love the coloring here, and I love the just scope of the Star Destroyer. Look at that; it just gives you that sense of like looming death. Really cool. And it follows some X-wing fighters as they're going all around. Princess Leia's in an X-wing fighter. She looks a lot more like Queen Amidala in a lot of these pictures than Leia herself. The only complaint I really have is I don't feel like this really looks like Harrison Ford's face all that much. I mean, you kind of get the sense of it a little bit, but it's a little off to me. And I don't know what makes it off, but it just doesn't feel Han Solo-y, I guess. And that persists throughout the volume. But beyond that, I really enjoy the backgrounds, really enjoy everything else. I guess Luke doesn't really look like Luke either. He kind of has this like generic dude bro look to him. But Leia's flying an X-wing fighter, and Mon Mothma is trying to track down a leak as this one Imperial officer is doing hunting down the rebellion, and really seems to be one step ahead of them. So they think there's a leak as they're trying to find a new home because Yavin's been compromised and trying to figure out where to settle upon and land. Meanwhile, Vader finds out he's got his command removed because of his failure at Yavin, and is sent on an objective from the Emperor. And Vader starts learning about the Skywalker thing and starts hunting down Luke as best he can. So we get some Rogue Squadron tactics, and they call themselves Shadow Squadron in this, with these characters right here flying along with them. They're like Black Ops X-Wings, while Han Solo goes off and tries to secure some stuff for the rebellion. And, you know, nice weaving plots throughout all of this. I thought Brian Wood did a very nice job on just, you know, weaving through the different characters, make sure everybody had something to do. This gal shows up. She ends up being a semi-love interest for Luke Skywalker. It turns out she's Force sensitive. And we also are sort of led to believe that she's like the traitor for a bit. But that's a red herring type of situation right there. Pretty good writing all the way around. And like I said, I enjoyed this art a bit, even though I'm not sure on the faces so much, just from a, you know, feeling like the characters element. But when you're not dealing with named characters, I mean, really nice. All right, so this goes for 12 issues, and it really is just a continuing storyline for 12 issues as these X-Wing pilots try to find a home. They keep getting hit by the Empire. Vader's getting closer and closer to Luke Skywalker. Han Solo gets into trouble, gets trapped on Coruscant, and Boba Fett comes after him for a bit. And it eventually culminates with a pretty big battle and then a pretty big twist at the end. With a big spoiler. Should I spoil this one? This is a big spoiler for just this story. It's not really for the Star Wars universe in general. I like this little scene. Leia actually shows up in an asteroid field where there's this old clone ship, and she finds this guy who worked on the Death Star and brands him a war criminal, and he's just depressed because he knows he did bad and all that. It was a pretty nice emotional scene right there. I won't spoil the end of it because there's a twist to the way the battle ends with the Empire. It's very fun. And it wraps up a little too quick. It wraps up in issue 11, so issue 12 really ends up like a coda issue. Like it's you know, they're resting in between this storyline and the next storyline. So you have this whole issue 12 that's really just like wrapping up loose ends so they can move on to issue number 13. So that pacing went a little slow at that point, but for the first 11 issues, like, I mean, I plowed through this. This was a very nice story that, you know, I wanted to finish it before it was over. And that wraps up the volume. There's some extras in the back. There's like a note on the 2013 series that's like, hey, we're launching a new Star Wars series from the editor there. Oh yeah, and then the next story setup is Leia's going to go marry this prince in order to get the rebellion set up on their station. So that's going to cause some nice interpersonal conflict with Han Solo. Very nice storyline set up at the end of 12. And we get some art and all that from variant covers and the like at the end. So fun. It's a fun book. I enjoyed it. I read it pretty quickly. Pacing was great. I think the art in those one-off stories were a little rough, and actually through that, even the three-parter there was a little bit rough on the Dark Horse end. And then towards the end of it, the art got picked up a lot better. But I don't even know who the artists are on this. Should I look that up? What does it say? We've got, let's see, Raul Trevino, Cam Templey, Carlos de Anda, Ryan Kelly, Dave Gibbons. I don't recognize all of them, but there you go. Cool. So this is it. Star Wars Rebellion. I enjoyed it. I'd say it's 8 out of 10 overall, just maybe 7.5 out of 10 because of the early art in between there. So if you enjoy my reviews and like the Epic Collections and all that, hit the like button. Tell me what you think of the Star Wars Epic Collections and Rebellion. And tell me why Rebellion and Empire are separate lines. That doesn't even make sense to me. If somebody knows how these are mapped out and why, I'd be interested in knowing that. All right, I'll catch you guys next time. Like and subscribe. See ya.